listening to the Hollywood Boulevard Podcast.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Hollywood Boulevard Podcast. And this is is it 9? Episode 9,
Episode
I think?
9, yep.
Episode 9 of the season, and it's my pick. I'm Joe Turek, and I'm here with my co-host, Jonathan first. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing good. With the topic we got today, couldn't be much better. And Alfred, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Good to be here today, Joe.
Great. So, my pick, as we said at the end of the last episode and going into this one, is Christmas Vacation, the great late '80s comedy that I think everybody's seen. If they haven't, they must be living under a rock or don't watch movies. Maybe, I don't know.
I should have brought. I'm drinking soda, but I should have brought some eggnog.
Would you have had the Wally World mug too? Huh? Yeah.
I wish.
I know they actually. I saw that in the stores, like at one of like the novelty stores and stuff like that. And I was like, they'll make a buck on anything. So
Expensive gifts or
smart, actually.
Yeah. So
you can get them on Amazon Prime.
Oh, really? I know, like Amber's got a shirt for the movie and stuff like that. I don't have
the eggnog glasses they have online.
Yeah. Well, I just have the movie. I have it on Blu-ray, VHS, and DVD. So I have all three of them. I have sort of a standard issue Blu-ray, so I don't think it had a commentary on it, which was kind of cool. With a lot of the cast, but I don't have. I think they put a big time special edition out. I don't know what versions you guys might have if you own it. I'm sure you probably do.
I used to own it. I don't know where it is. I can't find it in my collection, but I watched it on Max. I was gonna buy it because, just like I said when we did our the Christmas Story thing, I found this Christmas Story 4K for $10, and I found the vacation, Christmas Vacation, it was supposed to be at Best Buy, and I guess they were all sold out, so
Gotcha.
Kind of sucks.
Yeah, I when I opened it up to take the disc out to put in, I still had the receipt in there from the thrift store. I found it at a thrift store for a couple bucks. So
keep that receipt, man. Those are always fun to like look at, years later.
Yeah, I did that recently and looked inside one of them, and the receipt, the print was almost gone because it was like a Circuit City one from like I think it was like one of the first DVDs that I bought. I think it was Enter the Dragon or something like that. And it was just like, wow, this is quite old. And yeah, the print was kind of faded and everything.
Speaking of that, I kept most of my movie stubs from high school and college. There are like a couple hundred movie stubs of movies I saw.
I do that too. I have like a couple big sandwich bags of them and stuff like that. Now everything's digital just about, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like pulling the tickets out, and like I think the oldest one that I have from high school is, I think I had like Lockup or something like that. That's still the movie. So stuff like that. But so Alfred, do you own this movie?
I have my dad's hand-me-down DVD.
There you go.
You got a new one, and I got that one. But for this one, I couldn't find it, so I just watched it like 4 or 5 times on Max.
Yeah, the beauty is that it's on streaming on Max. So, and most of the Christmas ones are, like, A Christmas Story's on there too. If if I hadn't wanted to listen to the commentary for A Christmas Story, I just would have watched it on Max.
Yeah. Now, did they put the commentaries on there as well? Sometimes I on Max.
Well, at least for the 4K, yeah, for Christmas Story. I don't know. Not on Max.
The streamers. Yeah. It's if you own the media, the physical media.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's but yeah, the commentary that's on here on the Christmas Vacation, it's Randy Quaid, Beverly D'Angelo, Johnny Galecki, Miriam Flynn, the director, and one of the producers. I was like, that's a pretty full house. I might not be able to get a word in edgewise on a conversation that big, but that could be interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
But I know we always like to talk about when we saw it for the first time and stuff like that. So I'll go first. I saw it in the theaters the second week that it was out. I didn't see it the first week, and it came out in December of '89. And the funny thing is I was going to school and high school, and one of the guys was talking about it, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is so great," and this, that, and the other, and he's like, "Why haven't you seen it yet already?" And I was like, "Well, I went and saw Back to the Future 2 a second time that first weekend, so there was a justifiable movie there, but so yeah, I saw it in the theaters then, and I've seen it in the theaters a couple times over the years. I actually last year I saw it at the 24-plex here. So I've seen it a few times on the big screen, then so many times on streaming or disc or whatever. So that's for me. Alfred, how about you? What was your first viewing for this?
I think it was on cable or VHS. I wasn't a big fan of these movies when I was growing up. I don't know why it just didn't click with me. But then when I come home to visit for Christmas, when I was, after I moved away and stuff, my dad it's one of my dad's favorite movies. So,
yeah,
just hang out with dad watching it. And then it's kind of grown on me over the years, so much so that I've watched it a whole bunch of times. I felt like I had to catch up. I had to cram some viewings in for this one because I like it so much. Like sometimes I just want to, there's just so much stuff happening, and there's a couple of parts I don't really care for, but we want to get into that. But
yeah.
Other than I want to hear that at some point, the stuff you don't care about, because there are some I don't care about either.
Yeah. I think we're pretty much all decided what it is when we bring it up.
Yeah. There you go.
But okay, yeah, so I enjoyed it.
Okay. And Jonathan, when was your first time seeing it?
Oh God, I don't remember. It once again, it's kind of like Alfred. It's a movie that's kind of grown on me through the years, but when I never really liked Vacation. I thought those movies were sort of boring in a way, like they weren't that funny to me. I don't know if the humor just never connected with me. I own them on Blu-ray. Vacation and European Vacation. I don't have Vegas Vacation. I don't even know if that's on Blu-ray. But I own those other two, and I think they're funny, but they're not like laugh out loud hysterical. Like I think all of National Lampoon's feels like that to me. Like I never got into Animal House. I never thought that was really funny. They're just not that, hilarious, I guess, to me. So maybe it's a generational thing or something. I don't know. But I think the first time I saw it was probably on cable or a VHS or something, and I just was like, I might not even watch the whole thing back then, because it didn't appeal to me. Now rewatching it and having seen it a bunch of times after, yeah, it's definitely, at least Christmas Vacation has really made me laugh, like at times, and made me think this is what a modern in the 80s family was like, for Christmas. So I get that. Like I get it for like nostalgia's sake, sort of.
Yeah. Well, I really liked the first Vacation as well, but I mean, to me, this one is just, it's in a league of its own, and not very often that people like part threes better than ones or twos and stuff like that. Usually in a series it goes downhill, but I mean, I guess this is a little bit different because it's not the conventional series of like sequels and stuff like that you might get to where, because each one has its own little unique angles, if you will. The first three, anyways. I know European. A good friend of mine, John. I think this is his favorite. That's his favorite one, is European. But I think that's because of his European background and stuff like that. So
I've met a few of the Rusties. I met like Anthony Michael Hall, and I've met Jason Lively. I've actually drank and hung out with Jason Lively, and that dude can drink and hang out. Like he's really, a really cool dude. He can handle his alcohol. But he's, but aside from that, I don't really I don't know much of the stuff. Like I've watched them a couple times. I need to probably try to just binge watch them at some point and just watch them more, and see if maybe I did like Vegas Vacation recently, and I thought that was sort of funny, but it still has moments where I'm just like, it's like it's not
Yes.
my type of humor.
Yeah, see, for me, Vegas really, really dropped the ball. I worked in the theater when that one came out, and we were kind of amped for it. And then we watched it, and it was just like it felt like we were watching a TV movie, and it was kind of disappointing for us. But that's ones that were so ingrained on the originals. So it was a little bit different time too. I mean, gosh, that was 25 years ago or so. Anyways, so yeah, it came out in the December of '89, and like I said, it opened up at number 2 in the box office. It was either 2 or 3, behind Back to the Future, and actually didn't get number 1 until its third week, and right around Christmas time. War of the Roses was also out about that time, so that was the other movies that was really big then. But it ended up doing quite a bit in its initial run at the box office, and then, like I said, it's come out over the years, re-released each number of Christmases and stuff like that, because heaven knows they need to have good comedies at the theaters and at Christmas time, because they try to do holiday movies now, and most of them usually fall pretty flat. So
well, Christmas movies nowadays, I mean, what are they going to do? Christmas movies where people are on their phone, during Christmas? I mean, family dynamic is so different now that it's fun to watch these movies once again for nostalgic sake of seeing that.
Yeah, the Christmas movies now that get any sort of play in the theaters are more the horror ones almost, or the revenge, or the action movie. Like this year, there's the action one that's come out.
Violent Night.
Yeah,
Silent
exactly.
Night.
But yeah, classic John Woo type movie. But yeah, so Christmas comedies are nice, but yeah, a lot of those now Hallmark, and I guess has the niche, the audience for that, and straight to video and straight to TV, and there's only so much stuff you can do because of technology and different things. So one thing before I get into some of the different scenes, and I want to hear what you guys have to say too, is this was the first time that I recall ever seeing a Walmart. I know it's really a small little thing that was in there. I didn't know of Walmarts prior to this.
We didn't have any around us.
Yeah, it was like so I saw in the movie, I was like, what's that? And I think that was before they were even open 24 hours and stuff like that. So seeing stuff like that, it was like, oh, and then one of my favorite stars on one of my favorite shows was in it too, in a smaller role, but great nonetheless. And that's Julia Louis-Dreyfus playing Margot. I mean, she was a hoot for this too. But I'm like, there's no need to go over like what the story is, because I mean everybody knows the story and stuff like that. But I'm so piqued to know what scene or stuff like that was one that maybe you didn't like, and then we could sort of branch off from there. So Alfred, you said there was a couple things that you just didn't hit you the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which one would you think of, or one of them?
Oh, that's it. When the cat got fried, I don't like that.
Oh,
it was funny to me. I got 5 cats, so I'm kind of partial.
I forgot about that scene, and I was like, oh, like really?
Well, they do that. They do that in 2 of the 3 movies, basically, because in the first one, it's not a cat; it's actually a dog that gets.
Yeah, that was sad. That's why I don't like the first movie. I don't think this stuff. I don't find. I remember that's why I don't like the first movie. I just think that I'm like terrible. It's kind of harsh. Those sort of things, and in a lot of movies I watch, it's like, does the dog make it or does the cat make it? And it's like, if they don't, it's like, uh-oh. And usually that's more the action or the horror movies and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you can go wipe out 20 people in the horror movies, but it's like, does the dog make it? Yeah.
It's like,
well, I mean, yeah, and I thought that was going to be the joke or whatever, that the dog and the cat were going to run around with each other or whatever. Totally forgot that the cat fries himself with the lights and everything, and it's so cartoonish looking, It almost feels like a cartoon. So it didn't bother me as far as like, whatever, because it didn't even look real, that it happened. But it bothered me to the point of like them, just going, okay, well, the cat's gone. Oh, well. And I'm like, oh my God, that was a living, breathing thing. And like the squirrel running around and everything, like I thought something was going to happen with that. But thankfully, he just attacked Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So who I was like, yes, all right, that's cool, because she was so annoying.
And then the dog jumped on top of her after that. It was just like, gosh, I was like, she just got. No wonder she got back to her house and just decked her husband or boyfriend, whoever.
Did he look like? I swear to God, I thought that was Rob Lowe for a second. Like I know I forgot who the actor was, but it was
Nicholas Guest. He's the brother of Christopher Guest.
Okay, I swear to God, I was like, that's Rob Lowe. Or if that wasn't Rob Lowe, that's a Rob Lowe type part.
Oh yeah, yeah. So was that the scene you were thinking of too, about the that rubbed you a little bit with the cat?
No, not necessarily. Just a couple of the side parts that just sort of came around. Like I didn't care for him going jewelry shopping and hitting on the chick, and that just went so long for me. Like it was funny for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it kept going, and I'm like, can we cut this scene a little bit, please? Like it's just like it's taking away from the rest of the movie, in my opinion. Like, though it was funny that the son saw him afterwards and was like rolling his eyes, like, there's my dad hidden on the, jewelry store girl.
You know why that scene got added. There's a good reason why. Christy Brinkley turned down a role in this movie because she said it didn't seem like it would fit this type. From one of the things I read is that it would because she has the driving in the car scene in Vacation and stuff like that. So they were trying to do something comparable to that, where he was messing around with a younger girl and stuff like that, just joking around. And so it was kind of in that same vibe, and then it just sort of, but yeah, one of the can't see the lions, can you, and stuff like that. That's sort of a line that I quote sometimes to people. It comes up in weird ways, but it's just, but interesting. It's always interesting to hear different takes on things from that you might truly enjoy, but hearing from a different perspective. But I truly understand the cat part, because I'm just like, but yeah.
That didn't bother you, did it, Alfred? The him hitting on the chick?
No, not really, but I could see where you went. It did kind of go a little while.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a few minutes more than I feel like it should have. Like I got it, like, because he does flirt a lot with other, like the scene you were saying where he was looking at the driver in the first movie or whatever, and it was Christy Brinkley, or whatever. Like, that's cute, that was fun, funny, whatever. This just felt like it was it didn't really, other than to show that, because later we get the scene with him just staring off into space and watching some chick basically do the Fast Times at Ridgemont High scene,
That was the same girl. It was the same girl.
Okay, well, yeah. So that just kind of, started.
I did not know that.
I didn't even realize that either.
Yeah, he was daydreaming because of the pool, because he had because they were going to get the pool and stuff like that. So he was daydreaming the pool, and then crossing up with the girl, and then it just all crashed apart when the little girl came in, thinking this, because he looked like Santa at the window.
Right. Well, did he ever mention the pool until that time?
Yeah, he had the interaction with his coworker. Okay. Asking if something's been delivered and stuff like that. Then he talks about the installation of it, there's a few things too. So, I mean, as idiotic as some of the stuff that Clark does, I mean, he's an inventor basically. So, I mean, he's really a smart guy, or his character is. I mean, but he just, his common sense is kind of lacking at times. And but one of the inventions, there's a variety of different inventions on the wall, and one of them supposedly is one of the contraption oils or something that they used in like the Blues Brothers or something like that. So it's like they had like the little hidden references in there. And I know that we always find humor in seeing references to other movies or to the original and stuff like that. They do that in here too. It's like they have the when he's in the attic and he finds the old gift that's unwrapped in the wood where he's hiding the other presents. It's from Mother's Day of '83, and '83 is when the first Vacation came out. So it was like sort of a throwback to that year and stuff like that.
Nice.
So things like that. So a little background on like the director and stuff like that. I'm not very familiar with how you, I don't know if you pronounce the name, Chichek, Jeremy Chichek.
I think so.
He's on the front of the Time magazine at the beginning too when they're laying in bed reading. That's actually a picture of him. But
that's funny.
But he wasn't the original director. John Hughes was going to direct it, I believe, and then there was a couple other options. And
Chris Columbus.
Chris Columbus. But there was some bickering or something like that. I think said
Chris Columbus hated
Chevy Chase.
Chase, and I only know this because they discussed this there's a really great show about like the movies that made us or whatever, and one of them was Home Alone, and it was talking about how John Hughes really liked Adventures in Babysitting and thought Chris Columbus was a great director, but Chris Columbus made a really big bomb like right after I forgot what it was, but he made this really big bomb, did bad, and so John Hughes offered him Christmas Vacation, and he was so excited because Christmas is his favorite time of year, and all this stuff. So Chris was all excited and started going, and then working with Chevy Chase apparently just butted heads and everything, and they couldn't get along. And so he said, I can't do it. And he bowed out. And the other director, Swerzik or something like that.
Chichek.
Chichek, whatever. He came in and, not whatever, but you know what I mean? Like he came in and he rocked it. So he did a great job. Especially directing Chevy Chase and probably not trying to kill him. So
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I read that it was there, so Columbus had a shot at it, but he was busy, and he was doing, I guess, Home Alone at the time, or was it? And then Hughes was doing, but he was tied up with Uncle Buck that was happening at the time, and Chevy Chase suggested bringing Harold Ramis into it to direct.
That would have been great.
But he was busy filming Ghostbusters 2. So it was just like
he was busy acting Ghostbusters 2. Damn.
Yeah, so there was a lot of different, and I think he was involved in co-writing of Ghostbusters 2, I believe. But Harold Ramis was just busy anyways at that point of the '80s. They all seemed to be, and so they went this different direction with it. But and I think I'm trying to remember if that director's done much else. I thought he did a movie with Denzel and Meg Ryan, like Courage Under Fire, maybe something in the '90s or early 2000s. I can't remember.
Oh, the director.
And probably look him up and probably see he's probably done a handful of other things too. But
he's a TV director now. Mainly does TV shows like The Gifted and Bitten and The Right Kind of Wrong, Wrong. I don't know, all these things, but I did see he did Benny and June right after this.
Oh, okay.
And then he did Diabolique, and he was the director of the Avengers, the from the British TV show,
the Ray Fiennes and Uma one.
Yeah.
Okay. So he has I guess you'd say he does TV and a lot now.
He does more TV now than he does anything.
Yeah. So so that was sort of behind the scenes on a couple of the things, and they talked to Lynn. Was it Buckingham, the one who did the theme music? And he didn't want to get stereotype or soundtrack type stuff, so they went a different direction. And the opening thing, the credits is great with that song, and they do it on the end. And the animation, I love that little animated sequence and stuff.
Right, you don't see that anymore. You don't see animated. Oh, well, because we don't have main title sequences anymore. Those are long gone because people just don't have the attention span to wait 3 minutes for a cool like opening or something, or whatever.
Yeah. The only time you get it now is like with the new James Bond movies or something like that. That's because they have to do that because that's just part of that line of movies where they have the big popular song and they do that sort of thing. But yeah, I really like the animation in this, and it sort of plays into some of the stuff with the lights and his problems with handling lights and all in the movie. But the opening scene of the movie after the credits, with the truck and stuff like that, it's one of the greatest lines. Like,
Oh,
truck, it's just
which
love
line?
it.
I missed it for a second.
Look, kids, a deer. While he's trying to get the kids look the one way while he's flipping somebody off the other way.
Yeah.
So it's like if something's happening and somebody's like being difficult with me on the road, I'm always thinking of that, and it's like, look, look the other way, Sam, or something like that, so I can give somebody else the bit. I think it, because I don't really want to do that nowadays, because nowadays you might get shot.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
Alfred,
but,
you don't ever do that shit, right? You don't ever try to flip somebody off while driving. Alfred, you there?
Nope, no, I don't.
Okay.
There's time in
Yeah.
my youth I would have, but not anymore. I
Back
don't
in
lay on
the
the horn or nothing.
yeah,
yeah.
nowadays you do anything like that, you're liable to get run off the road or worse. So,
Well, I mean, he went underneath a fucking like truck or whatever, and that scene alone was pretty freaking amazing that they were able to do that, and like the fact that they didn't even get stuck; they were actually still driving, or whatever. That would be scary to me, like terrifying, even as a stunt to do, because you have to keep at the same pace as the truck or whatever, in order to, so you don't
I
run
I
into
think
them.
they showed like a something how they did that on a making of a long time ago that I saw, and yeah, that's like, I don't know how I would react in that sort of situation. I'd probably freak out. That's just, oh.
Yeah,
But
I'd be terrified to death. I would want to do everything I could to get out of that situation right then and there or whatever. And then they get into the other lane and the car flies off because of the snowmobile coming at the same time. So they drive off and hit the was it the tree sign or whatever, and trees for sale or whatever sign. And I was like thinking, I mean, this is my brain now, not when I was a kid, but my brain now is like thinking, aren't they gonna get like in serious trouble for destroying public property like that? Like, you know,
yeah, and I think they did something similar in part one, where he goes off the road and takes out some stuff. So it's like sort of his driving leaves a lot to be desired, I think, just in general. But
yeah.
well, I guess in the first one he fell asleep at the wheel too, which was created some real challenges. But so so in that, I said that was like one of the best lines. But then that interaction after they get the tree, and they forgot the saw, so they have to like rip it up out of the ground, which was funny. So you see the roots all hanging out of the tree. I'm like, how in the world would you dig a tree out?
How would
That's,
they dig a tree out, and how would they carry it back? Like
yeah.
all four of them, they're tiny people. There's no way they could take this big
Mhm.
ass tree. But the magic of filmmaking is you just cut to,
Yeah.
and it's already on there, and you don't have to explain anything. And it's a comedy. If it were a drama, you'd have to explain everything. If it's a comedy, nobody cares because it's
Yeah, it just move on to the next thing. But I'm sure Paul would be squeaking the con something with the monkey or something like that. He'd be saying, not real, not real, no, no, no. But when they get back to the house, though, they're getting ready to in that interaction with Todd and Margot, it's like they're like, you got I think you misunderstood the size of his roof. She says something like that, and he's like, "Where are you going to put a tree that size?" He's like, "Bend over and I'll show you."
no. He says that, right?
I know, and then Todd goes, "You got a lot of nerve talking to me like that." And then Clark's like, "I wasn't talking to you. It was to Margot." I was like, "That's just wrong in so many ways."
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so
Yep.
so Alfred, what's some of the stuff that you really liked in the movie?
I really like the sledding scene. That cracks me up every time I see it. Goes, oh shit! That just makes me laugh every time.
And he talked about the invention that he made. He was putting it on there, and Eddie, in his one sign of actual intelligence. Well, he had a few of them, I guess, but he's usually making dumb decisions. But he's like that. I don't want the only thing separating between separating me and the ground is a piece of government plastic in his head. He's
Right.
like, I'll just pass on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that he like twirled around at one point in it, you know, when he was going down there, because I thought, oh my God, they must have had so much fun filming that stuff, you know? Like, I don't know. It looked like a great scene. At least it came out really great.
Yeah. And then they show the sled like a few scenes later, when Eddie's emptying the shitter basically in the trash area. He picks it up and looks at it. What's that? Oh, shitter was full. Yeah, but in that scene when he's emptying it and stuff like that, he looks over in the trash pile and he picks up the sled, and the sled, you see the sled with the burn marks through it and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, there it is. There's Clark's sled. But yeah, that shitter is full scene. That's just, oh my gosh.
A lot of this movie was just so like just comedic like quotes, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they did good things though with foreshadowing and setting stuff up for later payoffs, because like in that scene there with the shitters full, Clark and they him and his wife, they talk about, it's like he should know not to do that because it's anybody light a match within 50 yards of there is it's going to cause trouble. So later on, of course, Lewis is lighting up his stogie and he causes the explosion that just causes chaos there at the end of the movie.
I love William Hickey, the guy who played Lewis. He was in like the Puppet Master movies, or at least the first one and stuff, and he's been in a few other things, but every time I hear him, he has that voice, you know, like and everything, and he has this grandpa voice that just sounds so, I don't know. I just love listening. I wish he had done like a book on tape where he read something, because I would have listened to his voice and be happy, you know.
Yeah, he was in something I watched a few years ago for the first time in like 30 years. If I remember, was it Tales from the Dark Side? I think didn't he, like, he was in a wheelchair or something like that. His character was. I think it
Probably.
was Tales from the Dark Side, but yeah, and he was like, was it like 20 years younger than the lady that was his wife? Because I mean, he was. I can't believe it said he was only like in his 60s in that movie, because he looked so much older than that. But
Was he in his 60s? He did look like he was older.
yeah, I think I saw that he was like 61 or 60 or that. So
Oh wow.
yeah, he looked significantly older than that.
Let's see. He died. Wow, he died in 1997 at the age of 69.
Yeah, so this was only like less than 10 years before that. So he was
And
right
he's
around
always played
60.
old men like in his 60s. Jesus. You know, or
Yeah,
he
because
might have been in his 50s actually,
yeah,
if
when
he
they
was
filmed it,
69.
gosh,
Wait,
that's less than that's
yeah.
about like less than 10 years different from where I'm at now, and that's what maybe I don't have that self-awareness that maybe I don't know, am I aging that quick? You age that quickly at that point, or is that
Maybe
just a
you can
different time?
play older, you know? I mean, I don't know.
Hmm.
Just put some
Yeah,
gray hair, like gray hair, like white hair, and you're thinking
yeah.
you can play older.
Or in this one, you like he takes the toupee off or something like that,
Oh God, I
his
love that scene.
because he took his hat off and the toupee came with it. It was just like, oh, that was ridiculous. And the one who played the old lady, I think she was like the voice of like Betty Boop or something like that back in the day, like as a kid, or in her younger days. And I think this was her last movie, because I know she was really getting up there
Oh
when this was
wow.
made. But I yeah, she did. I think that this and like Roger Rabbit were two overlap later movies
Yeah,
that
she was
she did.
Betty Boop. Wow.
Yep. Yeah,
And she
she did
did
the
the
voice
Betty
of Betty
Boop
Boop.
in Roger Rabbit. That's all.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I think that those were like two of her last credits, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh wow.
I think Christification might have been the last one.
Well, she was in New York Stories as well, which was a short
Oh, right
film,
about that time.
like
Yeah.
anthology that I think like Martin Scorsese, and I think she was in the Woody Allen one, Oedipus Rex,
Okay.
which yeah. So
So
that's funny.
yeah.
I liked her. I liked where she did the what is it? The she was supposed to say grace, and so she said the national, was it the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
Yeah, she did that, and then she sang the Star Spangled Banner at the end. It's like,
And then she
and,
goes, "Play ball."
yeah, I know, right? That's what they usually do. What was it? And that was at the dinner, and was it Eddie stood up and, and put his hand over his heart or saluted or something like that. It was like, go figure.
Eddie
Um,
just went with the flow. I love Eddie, you know.
yeah. Now Randy Quaid. I mean, this is like I've seen him in. Obviously, we all seen him in a ton of stuff, but this is probably the movie that I always remember him most for is as this role. I don't know. Are you guys in the same boat there, or
What do you think, Alfred?
I didn't follow that. So
Randy Quaid?
yeah,
Is this what you always know him from? Always think of him as like this being the main role you always remember him for, or do you think
yeah,
there was
yeah, yeah.
others? I
Typecast.
mean, yeah. I mean, he's been in other stuff, a ton of other things, but it's just this is the one that'll always be memorable. And I believe they wrote him into this more because people was so disappointed that he wasn't in European
Uh,
Vacation. So and they were right with that. And to be honest, some of this his stuff in Vegas Vacation was probably that was probably the better parts of that to me, anyways. But
Well, you got to
but he
know his
fit.
family a little bit more from that one too. Like it became
Mhm,
a little bit about Eddie more, you know, or something in Vegas
mhm,
Vacation. I mean, you got to know his family pretty good in this one as well, but like that one, I don't know. It was just I feel like that one was a little bit more Eddie spot inspired, and it showed like the transition because like right after Vegas Vacation, they did Christmas Vacation 2, Eddie's cousin Eddie's, you know,
it was
Hawaiian
like an
trip or
yeah
something.
island vacation part, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And so I never watched it, but
I
yeah.
watched like about half of it, and I just couldn't. It just got
It
it
just
just
if
had it
it would
just
probably feel weird without, you
it's like
know.
Caddyshack 2.
I know, right? Yeah,
Well, didn't
exactly.
Caddyshack 2 have some of the people from the original at least, like, or whatever, I guess, but it still
Oh,
didn't feel like Caddyshack, you know.
oh.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, for the Christmas Vacation 2, they had uh, one of the Audreys was in it from the one of the earlier ones. Came back for that, but it was really forced and just it was one of those made for video, no budget type of movies and stuff like that. It was
Yeah, they
pure
have to have
cash grab.
something else to tie it in, not just Eddie, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and it showed that his character is really not. He's really good as a foil type of character, type of than being a centerpiece of the movie. I mean, he
That
didn't show up in this one
shopping
till about
scene
what,
is
about
one of
half
my
an.
favorites in the movie too. Like I love where he's just putting everything in the cart, you know, but he's putting like four things of dog food in there, and it feels like he's not just getting it, like he's just sort of, you know, he's not abusing his relationship with Clark because Clark seems to be like a-okay with, you know, helping out or whatever, but he sort of is abusing his relationship with Clark, you know?
Well, he is because he already had a list ready. He's like, this is so unexpected, such a surprise. He's like, I got a list, and he's
Here's the
like, why
list.
don't you that and when he was throwing the bags in, I don't know if you noticed it, but Clark puts a little box of lights in there, and he throws them two big dog food bags on top, and you hear him crunch. He just crushes the bag of because it
I did
Clark's
not
trying to
hear
get
that.
some. Oh yeah, listen that next time you're watching it, just listen out, and you'll hear the crunch of all the lights that's in his little box thing that Clark puts in there. Um,
Nice.
the Walmart was it Old Roy dog food or something like that though the big monster bags. I guess Snots would eat a lot because he was a pretty big dog, but
He's a pretty big
uh,
dog.
yeah. There, um, I remember when they introduced his character in there and all, and Eddie's like, "You've never seen a dog with a set as big as this," and you see Beverly D'Angelo. They cut to her, and she looks over at like just trying to see what's going on, to see underneath. I'm like, that's kind of freaky or creepy type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, um, what other things really make this rewatchable to you guys?
Alfred, you go. Alfred?
The scenes?
Yeah, scenes or just I know you
Yeah.
talked a little bit earlier about like with your dad or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
What makes it like rewatchable to you?
One of my favorite lines is that we're gonna have the happy Christmas is and what's the guy's name?
Danny K or Danny.
Danny
Yeah,
tapped into Danny fucking K. I just love that.
You love that whole like monologue he did?
Mm-hmm. Bing Crosby, yeah, I love that. It just makes me laugh. And then the part where he's like, "Holy shit, someone passed the aspirin," or whatever he says there, he just passes out. I think that makes me laugh too. I like that. And the house is great because my friend Gary, his dad, put it was like he would disrupt the. We used to joke that he disrupt the airplanes at Patrick Henry, because his house is so bright. But his dad's had that kind of thing going, so that reminds me of Gary's dad. And and of course, Brian Doyle Murray's great in it.
The second time he's in one of the Vacation movies too, because he was in the first Vacation in a very small role as well. Do you remember him in that one, John?
I don't.
He was the guy who got them the cabins at the campsite. Really
So
small.
wait,
He has his hat on backwards and he's like eating watermelon.
so he plays two different roles?
Yeah, I mean it was just a nothing, a quick cameo basically in the first one, and then
In a bigger role
his
in
role
this one.
yeah, in this one he has that one there. He's just basically somebody that's like he's basically the just the person who manages the campsite. So he's only in like one or two scenes, but in this one he actually has a fairly important role. If he's I hard to say villain in this, but he's sort of the one that's has to have some stuff done to him to change a character, to change things at the end.
I tell you, one part I do like is it almost doesn't really belong in the movie, but when he's in the attic and he's watching the old family movies, it just seemed like it was out of place, but it was very good. I really like that scene.
I think what they did was the original stories for some of these Vacations was written for the National Lampoon magazine, like in the late 50s, and I think this might have related to that with some of the writers and stuff, their history and their time period. And there's also they show in there that one of the guys it's like Rusty in the Navy, and I'm wondering if maybe that something there might be what crosses up with the old lady and stuff like that in her mind with the new Rusty, the young Rusty, and stuff like that. So, yeah, him sitting there watching all those videos and stuff like that in the attic, it's just, and that gives him also a chance to some sentimental stuff, but also some slapstick stuff. Because I mean, when he gets nailed with the latch and the door, it's like, and then he goes up there and he gets smacked on those boards. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, that's some good physical humor.
And then later they open up the door, they open up the thing and he falls through, but you don't see him fall through or whatever, which I thought was a clever thing because obviously you can't really watch, Chevy Chase fall through there. There's, some kind of trick where he probably just fell like two inches down, or whatever, and then they cut, but it was well done. Like I laughed my butt off at that stuff because I was like, why would you sit on the door, if it could get open at any time? Like, why would you do that?
That's the thing about his character. He has such a brilliant mind for say with the inventing stuff and all this stuff, but his common sense sometimes. But it's all he has such a good heart. I think it just he's very misguided at times, and sometimes he just very lacks the common sense. And because I know I wouldn't want to sit there, I'd be like, okay, what other options do I have here? But
I love
I don't
Doris
think he thinks
Roberts,
it's
by the way. I've always loved her, and I forgot she was in this movie, and she plays such a like I think what I like and what probably would be rewatchable for me is the fact that it's a family movie, or a
Mhm.
dysfunctional family movie, but it's a family movie. It's about a family coming together to celebrate Christmas and everything. And Doris Roberts' character is just, I don't know, she's like an aunt or something, and she's
Well,
kind of
I think she's Beverly D'Angelo's mom.
mom. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's yeah, and yeah, I think it's let's see here. It says Frances Smith is the character. Frances and Art Smith. That's E.G. Marshall. So they are. I mean, well, we don't know what Ellen's maiden name is. So I think she says, "Oh, mom," when she talks about because Doris Roberts says she has hemorrhoids. She's like, "Oh, mom," or something like that. So I think it is her mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, so she's sweet as hell in the movie, and I always adore her. I loved her in the movie Grandma's Boy. I love her in, everything I've ever seen of her. She just always cracks me up. So,
Yeah, she was on was it Everybody Loves Raymond, I think was the show that she was on in the later years.
yeah, with
But
what's his name? Was it um Peter Boyles? Wasn't he
I
the
think
Peter
I think
Boyle, yeah.
he's like second behind what Romano. Ray Romano is the lead, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I miss
yeah,
Peter Boyles. Like I really and Doris Roberts. Both of them
yeah.
are passed on, but I love both of them to
Well,
death.
they said three of the four parents are gone because E.G. Marshall played the dad played Doris Roberts' husband, and he's been wasn't he the president in one of the superhero movies? I can't remember. Was it? But
Um,
there was him, and then John Randolph's been in a lot of stuff. I people that like know's been in stuff. It's just like you just can't think of titles right off the top of your head. And then there's Diane Ladd, who's still
Still
uh, uh,
around, still.
still around. Laura Dern's mom, if I'm not mistaken.
She played
Uh,
the original Flo in Alice Doesn't Live Here. That was the Martin Scorsese movie that later
mhm.
became somehow or whatever became a sitcom called Alice.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, Diane Ladd became a different one in Alice on the TV show. She played another a waitress on there.
That's
But but then
amazing.
she's in one of my favorite movies that I hardly ever talk about with people. Movie Wild at Heart. Have you ever seen that
Oh, with
with Nicolas
Nicolas
Cage?
Cage?
Yeah, it's a David Lynch film. It's really bizarre, but she plays. It's sort of like The Wizard of Oz, like inverted with like an Elvis theme with the main character. But Diane Ladd's like the Wicked Witch. That's because she's the mom and she's like the evil mom and stuff like that. But I've always enjoyed her in movies, but usually in smaller roles like this. Um, and 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 in Christmas Vacation, she just gets knocked over Clark when he's looking for the squirrel and stuff like that. He just knocks his mom right over onto the couch when he's trying to run the one time. I'm like, that's so wrong. Um,
You know what? I think Alfred's right. I should have probably watched like this 3 or 4 times because there really is so much that happens in this movie,
mhm.
and there's so many characters that it's really hard sometimes to like completely focus on everything that happens just if you just watch it once, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and um, then the kids, Juliette Lewis, which this was right about the time that she really became right before she really broke through with like Cape Fear and in California and stuff like that. Which
National
we were just
Born
talking
Killers
about.
later.
Yep, yep. We were just talking about her on the other podcast
Yep.
recently, and she was really funny and good in there, and some good back and forth between her and which was really strange. Her have to sleep next to her brother at that age. It
Yeah,
was
and
just
then
like
he's
she's.
like all trying to cuddle with her and stuff. That was awkward.
I think he was a restless sleeper. I would hope that would be all it was. But she was like, "Get off me, you little fungus!"
I know.
And
I
then
don't know.
Johnny
I've
Galecki
never
was.
had to share the bed with any of my sisters, so, or brother. So I don't.
Yeah.
To
Well,
me, that would be weird.
if it was the same sex at a younger age, it might not be that big of a deal. But I mean, they were what, 15, 16-ish area, or somewhere between 14 and 17. So I mean, that at that age, but I guess they had a full house. They had nothing else they could do.
Mm.
But
That's where you had to sleep, man. That once again, it
yeah.
goes back to the family stuff. Like this is what happens when you're hosting the house. Like even today, my aunt will come to visit and she will get like the guest room. But if somebody else comes to visit, I get kicked out of my own room. Like that's just I have to go sleep in the living room because that's just the way it is. Like the guests get to actually have the bed and or whatever their people's beds, and you have to do that.
Yeah, and but this was probably the first thing that I seen Johnny Galecki in, although he was in two Christmas movies that same year, but the other one's kind of forgotten. Prancer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So but he's obviously went on to bigger, not bigger, but huge things as well. With he had the small role in Roseanne. Well, not small, but it was pretty decent sized. Then Big Bang, which is a whole different the stratosphere of TV.
Okay. I hate to say this, I hate to break it to you, but I guarantee you, at least today's like generation or whatever, everybody will know Big Bang as opposed to Christmas Vacation. I think Christmas Vacation is still a big time movie, but Big Bang Theory was a huge. I mean, those guys got $1 million per episode. Every single one of those.
Yeah. Well, he's not the star of Christmas Vacation, so he's not the centerpiece of the film. So on that note, probably, but I don't know. I think that there's probably more of a saturation of Christmas Vacation in today's lexicon than Big Bang, because I know people that haven't seen an episode of Big Bang, but I don't know many people that haven't seen Christmas Vacation. So
At least once.
Interesting that. Yeah, exactly, because it's so just ingrained into the Christmas culture and stuff like that. And I didn't see actually I did not watch my first episode of Big Bang until this past year, and now I've watched quite a few of them, and like what was I missing all this time, because it's
yeah. So one of the guys kept telling me, "Go watch Big Bang. You're gonna like Big Bang." And then one day I'm bored at a horror convention in Kentucky, and I'm by myself in the hotel room, and it's a Saturday night, and TBS is doing like a Big Bang marathon. So I was like, all right, what is this? I'll watch this. And it was the episode where Will Wheaton invited the guys to a party and everything, and the guys, want to go instead of Sheldon, and Sheldon says the one line, and it makes me love the movie to death, or the show to death. This one line like made me like absolutely want to watch the show. And where he goes, you guys are gonna go. You guys are gonna regret going to the party with the one guy from Stand By Me that nobody remembers. And when I heard that, I was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe they got away with that, considering Will was there on the show and he was okay with them saying this and everything. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch. And I continued, and since then it's been one of my favorite shows of all time. So
yeah. And like we talk about Christmas Vacation and stuff like that, you need to watch it again and again just to catch all the little things. Those episodes of Big Bang, it's like there's so much. The dialogue is so quick. It's so fast paced. It's like there's a lot of references that I'm sure that you could get on third, fourth, fifth viewings and stuff like that, letting it resonate even more.
Well, they've done Christmas episodes, and I've never once heard them say something about Christmas Vacation. Why did they ever jab at Johnny? Like something like Christmas Vacation, and then Johnny Galecki can go, oh, I hate that, I hate that show, or something, where it, like, because you're right, it is so famous, but for anybody to like talk about Christmas Story or any other movie, and not talk about that,
I think they could have done something, and they could have thrown a line in there like, yeah, but they're always changing the Rusty, and this had to be the worst of them all, or something like that. Something like they could have thrown a nice jab in, like your comment about Will Wheaton and stuff like that. They could have really played that up, and I mean, because the comedy in that show is brilliant, and it's like
Alfred, did you ever see it?
I don't think so.
You've never seen any? You've never seen any episodes of Big Bang Theory?
Oh yeah.
I mean, are you a fan?
I was for a while, and it just seemed to get same thing every week. But I had other reasons for not liking it. But you just I saw it in a bad part of my life, so that and everybody loves Raymond. I do not like Raymond.
Yeah.
So not everybody does love Raymond.
Yeah.
There you go. Everybody loves Raymond? Not.
But, yeah.
It's
like going. Is it time when I get rid of my cable? So I stopped watching the new ones, but there's a lot of funny stuff in there, especially pop culture stuff, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well, Big Bang, isn't it on like Max now?
It's on Max. So if you ever want to watch it again, I mean, I adore it, and I still the other day, a couple weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, I was watching it when I was sick. Because it's just to me, it's a comfort show. To watch and just whatever. Plus, dude, Kaylee Cuoco is literally my favorite. That she's my number one crush. I don't know why, but I like anybody else in the world. I bow to her, as far as so I would die if I got a chance to write something that she got to speak,
Yeah, she so I mean I watched the first show she was on, the one with John Ritter. That's where I knew her from for the longest time.
Company?
No, she was not on Three's Company. She was a little young for that.
Eight Simple Rules about dating my teenage daughter.
It's the one.
It's the one that he passed away on when they were. It just started another season of it, and but that's the first thing that I think I think that was probably her first credits. But that's where I always remembered her from, and then she just became like a mega star from Big Bang.
Now she's a Priceline girl. It's weird to see her doing all these Priceline things. It's really funny to see her do the Priceline things, and then she had a show where she played a stewardess.
Yeah,
it's a dark show.
That flight attendant one. Yeah, that's it. There is kind of nice little tongue-in-cheek humor with that.
Yeah,
that she would do something like that. But yeah, Johnny Galecki in this is one of the probably, like I said, the first thing that I saw, and then with him in it. But Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo, obviously they've been in all of them. It wouldn't be a vacation movie without them, and I think
it's not a vacation without Chevy.
Yeah, and I know that he sometimes is accused of having an ego and stuff like that, which kind of bit him, I guess. Well, it didn't bite him, but it's like the have all the issues with who didn't direct this and stuff like that, and it sounds like that he's been difficult. I think there was some trouble also on Saturday Night Live with him and stuff like that. So, but sometimes those the geniuses of their respective crafts sometimes can be can have their quirks or whatever. So
I read a great story. I'll just paraphrase it, but there was a great story with William Goldman, the guy who wrote Princess Bride and Misery and many other movies. He wrote Memoirs of an Invisible Man. And originally Ivan Reitman was supposed to direct it, and it was going to be like a comedy, it was going to be a supernatural sci-fi comedy kind of thing, and everything was special effects, very much like Ghostbusters. But unfortunately, they also hired Chevy Chase. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the actors rule, with anything. Like if you get a big star in your thing, directors, writers, everybody else don't matter. You can always replace those guys, but they don't want to replace the actor. So Chevy Chase wanted it to be more dramatic and wanted it to be about exploring the loneliness of invisibility. And so William Goldman was like, okay, but that's not what Ivan Reitman wants to do. And so you wrote whatever, and John Carpenter ended up coming on board of that. And I remember seeing it in the theater, but I don't think I've seen it since. I don't remember it being any good enough where I was like, I want to see that again and again and again. I think I was like,
Yeah, I saw it on we got the VHS screener of it at Blockbuster back in the day, and that's how I saw it. And yeah,
you didn't even go to the theater for it, huh?
No. It's looking at his movies around that time. before then, before Christmas Vacation, he had like Fletch Lives, which I think that didn't do that well in the theaters. And Caddyshack 2, which we just talked about a little bit ago.
Oh,
Funny
so he
Farm,
was actually in Caddyshack too?
yeah, yeah. And one of the great music videos I really like, the Paul Simon song "You Can Call Me Al." He was in that video. I love that video. It's where he's just sitting there acting like he's singing. But Three Amigos, and then the one before that, which we just talked about a few episodes ago, Alfred's movie, Spies Like Us.
Oh, Spies Like Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So
wow, that's
once again,
I keep forgetting that we did Spies Like Us, and then right after we
a
did
lifetime ago.
So once again, my picks sort of evolve right around each other with either my own previous pick or with one of you guys with an actor or a director or something like that. So, yeah.
You're good. I think we all have like things we enjoy from the 80s, because that's what the season was all about, the 80s, and we have things that we enjoy from the 80s and whatnot. And I pick like Goonies, and then you pick Gremlins, and and it just sort of works. And Alfred picks like sort of the fun, like ones that aren't like, doesn't feel like whatever, like Spies Like Us,
Right.
you
Running
did
Scared.
Excalibur, you did Running Scared, and those are all sort of semi different, from what we were doing, which was great. I love that.
And
I think it shows our personalities.
And I bookended the 80s with the teen Fast Times at Ridgemont High type stuff, and then then ending it here with Christmas Vacation. This was like my senior year of high school, so so this one. I remember where I was, and I always remember that conversation with a friend when he was telling me different things about the movie and all, because he saw it opening weekend, and that's so nostalgia and all, and that's why I absolutely love this film, and that's why I have it as one of my favorite Christmas movies. It's just a fun movie.
You said on the Christmas Story one that we did, that Christmas Story and Christmas Vacation are your number one, like
it's like 1A, it's 1A and 1B, and this one to me is funnier than Christmas Story in general, but Christmas Story has a lot more heart, and it also really strikes chords with me because of it being the boy, which we talked about on Film Freaks, which I recommend everybody listen to that, because that was a real. I had a lot. I think we had a lot of good discussion on that one. But
we had a 2-hour-long show.
The heart of Christmas Story is, so it's like, if I want something that's really going to really tug at the nostalgia and in the spirit of Christmas, and really get emotionally engaged to that level, that's when I say Christmas Story. But just wanting to laugh and have fun with Christmas Vacation is just to me, it's a riot. That's why I love it so much.
Very much so.
So, Alfred, what's your favorite? Because we talked about it on Christmas Story, what our favorite Christmas movies are, but like, what would be your top 3 Christmas movies?
March of the Wooden Soldiers with Laurel and Hardy.
Oh, interesting.
Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. And let's see. I really liked It's a Wonderful Life came to me later in life, because it used to be a big joke because it was on 50 times a day. It seemed like back in the early 80s. I'd say March of the Wooden Soldiers with Laurel and Hardy.
So that's your
couple... I'm thinking, trying to, my processor's going really slow. Gosh.
Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life was probably my number 3. It'd probably be right there at number 3. But you got the Charlie Brown Christmas and stuff like that I would also have kind of up in there.
Well, like, I really like The Bishop's Wife. That's one of my favorite ones. That with Cary Grant and I can't think of her name right now. It's got David Niven, Cary Grant, Bonnie Woolley. It's really good. The Bishop's Wife.
Yeah, it was Cary Grant. All right.
Yeah. Or Alfred, you could say, like, some people be like, start the debate with. It won't be a debate here, but throw Die Hard into that, huh?
Yeah. Well, I tell you one that I really enjoy watching is Rich Little's A Christmas Carol.
Interesting.
So you're more in the older films kind of thing.
Yeah.
What is it about the older films that like attracts you?
I'm not sure. It just seemed a bit more. I can't put my finger on it, but there's also a version with Oh, It's a Wonderful Life. It's called It Happened One Night. It had Phil Donahue's wife in it. It was pretty good.
Oh, It Happened One Night?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a screwball comedy.
It happened on Christmas or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Nice.
I think it's like they swapped Jimmy Stewart with her, but yeah, and I like Rich Little's Christmas Carol. I was looking forward to that one. I should have been Christmas and Full and Hardy, Marshall and Soldiers.
Nice.
I guess this gets into sometimes the discussions. I know that Amber and I have when we're listening to Christmas music, like in the car, and I put it on like the holiday traditions station because it's like the old Christmas songs and stuff like that. And she prefers like the Jolly, which is the more contemporary Christmas music and stuff like that. So I'm like, well, I'll keep with tradition because I know for certain there like Little Drummer Boy will come on there, which is like one of my favorites. And we won't get Mariah Carey on that station. So
No, thank God.
And she knows because it's like we'll go into a store and they play the All I Want for Christmas Is You, and I'm just like I just cringe because all I think of when I hear that song is just commercialism. It's about buying and people selling stuff, and it's just oh.
There are Christmas songs I really like. Do They Know It's Christmas with the Band-Aid they did?
Yeah, stuff like that. The classic stuff.
Paul McCartney's and I got this one album when I was in college. It was like all this new wave stuff.
Uh-huh.
It was it's called It's Christmas Time or something, but I ruined my CD of it because I played it so much, but we recreated most of it on a playlist.
Yeah, like I like the Bing Crosby and Bowie.
David Bowie.
The Bowie drummer boy Peace on Earth mashup. I really like that. So yeah, the more classic ones, and then of the contemporary stuff. I mean, I say contemporary, but I mean once we get out of the '80s and stuff like that, it starts to really drop off from there.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
some of I mean, I like the Run DMC songs. I always like that with them. Christmas at Hollis. Yeah, stuff like that. So but it seems like after the '80s, and I don't know, maybe this is something that as we're getting older, these type of movies and the season and the music, it just it harkens back to childhood memories and nostalgia and stuff like that for us. And I think that maybe that's why like you like some of those the really older Christmas movies, because it really hits an emotional core of who we are and where we were when we were growing up and stuff like that. So
for sure.
Christmas Vacation might be sort of the last bastion of that, because when it wins the '90s, I mean, I guess a lot of people like Elf. I'm not the
That's 2000s.
I know. Yeah, so 2000s even more recent. So yeah, I mean Elf, and to me, I said Bad Santa when we talked recently and stuff like that too. But it's just not the same. I mean, '80s and before, it's just there's the nostalgia. It just seems like it was better made product for the most part. So
yep, I don't know. I kind of agree. But I don't. For me,
I
mentioned
with Kurt Russell.
Was that?
The new series with Kurt Russell on Netflix is pretty good too.
That's true. They did the Christmas Chronicles.
It looks like the guy from the Hateful Eight playing Santa Claus.
I would think Snake Plissken playing Santa Claus is, but I also Mel Gibson plays Santa Claus. We talked about that yesterday too. Mel Gibson,
and I've seen that him and who was his wife? I can't remember who played his wife. I keep thinking of Viola Davis, but it wasn't. It was Marianne Jean Baptiste, maybe. I don't know, but she played Mrs. Santa.
Mrs. Claus.
Yeah. So That was a pretty good, interesting, different take on stuff. I mean, it's not really a Christmas movie. I mean, other than the fact that it's that he's Santa, but it's not the traditional Christmas type of stuff.
Yeah, it's called Fat Man.
Yeah, Fat Man. Yeah, and who played his wife, Mrs. Claus?
I'm not sure. Hold on, because was it an African American
Yes,
person? So it was Marianne Jean Baptiste.
Baptiste. Okay, yeah. So I'll say I was like, it was Viola Davis or Marianne Baptiste. I couldn't remember. Okay, so it was her. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, interesting film. If I remember correctly, that story it's basically a kid who gets upset that he didn't get the toys he wants, and he's rich, and he basically puts a hit out on Santa. So
See, this is the 2000s. This is completely different than the 80s, where it's like traditional family stuff, and now it's like, what else can we do with Santa?
In movies like that one, it makes me think. I have this sort of the view that Gibson had as Santa is like, what happened to people? He's like, people used to be so appreciative of stuff, and it's like when we watch these movies, we used to be so appreciative of the older stuff. Now, because it's like the new stuff is just so, I don't say watered down. Not it has to be PC, and it's not as good. There are exceptions, and thankfully for that. And sometimes we get that on the indie stuff. We can see some of that on, which is cool. But Hollywood needs to make some more good Christmas movies.
They do.
They certainly do, but they don't. But you're right. I think a lot of it goes to like Lifetime or Hallmark or whatever, and so they don't really. Like the wholesome family ones go there, and then so the stuff like Violent Night, which the boys from Sonic the Hedgehog / Hey Stop Stabbing Me and Gamebox 1.0 wrote, Violent Night, which great, what fun little, Christmas, action movie, but.
It's a Wonderful Knife's another one.
It's a Wonderful Knife. I mean, this is what we're getting because what else? What?
Yeah. But It's a Wonderful Knife is a horror film though, and it's on Shudder now, and it's a small. It's not a big production, but it was. It had a lot. It could have been better, but it was some good stuff in it too. Some really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, all of these movies they could, especially nowadays. And just feel like they're just kind of like, what else can we do? Because it's already sort of been done with a lot of those traditional family comedies and stuff, and nobody really. I hate to say it, like this movie might have been like really the nail on the coffin of real good vacation stuff. This might have been the peak, of everything. Like they tried to remake it. And Vacation just didn't work, to me. Like it didn't feel the same. Even with Chevy Chase and and Beverly D'Angelo being there, I believe both of them were there. It just didn't feel like Vacation. It didn't feel the same. In my opinion.
Yeah. Well, but she did come back to a Christmas movie last year though, like you were saying earlier with Violent Night. So.
There you go.
But yeah, it's just the magic. I think after Christmas Vacation is just sort of, to me, it fell off, and it's unfortunate. But at the same time, it yielded at least two really really great films to me, that I love, and they came from the '80s, and it's where I think a lot of the good stuff came from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is there anything else that we wanted to touch on Christmas Vacation?
No, I'm always interested to hear different takes on stuff of things, and I guess if they would just done something different with the cat, that probably could have been good. But I'm sure that they'll be like, well, the PC nature of the society, and people can argue and debate everything. So and that's there's good parts to that, but then sometimes it's like it's just kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
How some people, especially today with today's movies, it's like you can't do this, you can't do that. And
Well, there was
That's why
nothing in
sometimes
here that would really like. I mean, the cat thing is such a cartoony scene that it wouldn't get anybody canceled. There's no scenes in this movie that would get anybody canceled because nothing really inappropriate, in the sense of like this is just disgusting that they would do that or even racist what happened in this movie. It is more family oriented, and stuff.
Although the one scene, and it's not offensive at all, but it's hysterical, and I love the office dynamics of it. Is when the boss Shirley and all his minions come by, and he's like, "Kiss my ass, kiss his ass, kiss your happy Hanukkah." It's just, but the office dynamics of how stuffy cultures it can be at times. That was really the way it was then, and nowadays it's gone to more of an open concept in the offices. But back then it was a very closed off, closed, tight, can't breathe type of society and stuff like that. So I don't know, but
yeah, I'll agree. That I guess and the fact that he couldn't, that the guy didn't want to give the bonuses out or whatever.
Johnny the Month Club. That's fine.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Eddie still had an optimistic view on stuff, but I mean, and him kidnapping he really did. Heart of gold, head of rocks. And I think that's Clark basically says so, and that's spot on, and it played well into the story. I mean, I think it was really well written for the type of movie that it did. It's not like a deep think type of movie, but it's one that you can just really enjoy. And I think
I agree 100%. I think him kidnapping the guy, even though because you see him leave and you're like, oh no. What is he doing? And because he knew that because I think even was Chevy Chase said at one point this is the only thing you can do is to help me out this day is kidnap my boss so that I can tell that little smug face of his or whatever. So he thinks this is my gift. This is my gift to the family and everything. I can't afford anything, but I can afford to pick this guy up and kidnap him and put a bow on him. And which I'm wondering how he got the money for the bow, but or how he did all that.
Probably stole it.
Probably.
Well, he had, and then the wife was like, it was a beastly man in a leisure suit that kidnapped him. That and but then on the flip side with Eddie's character. Clark tries to tell the kids, he's like, I was on the radio dispatch said that some pilots saw Santa, and Eddie's like, really, Clark? And Clark's like, I'm trying to help the kids here, play along here. It's just because Eddie, head of gold, heart of gold, head of rocks.
Pretty much.
This is your CO. What was your Red Ryder BB gun?
Oh God, we discussed this on the last one too. Joe, you go first.
Well, last night I talked about the Huffy bicycle that I really wanted. And then between that and Nintendo was probably the big things for me. But over the years, I got Star Wars stuff, and when I got that Death Star and the Hoth base and stuff like that. So I mean, probably the bicycle probably would be the unique type of thing. But and I'll never forget when I got my first VCR too. So. That was something. But how about you, Jonathan?
So I'm not going to do my whole story from the last time. You can watch the Christmas story one.
I did a good little fast-paced version of mine. But
so my fast-paced version is Game Gear. Was probably the one I really, really, really wanted one year, and I ended up getting it. But I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I got on.
People, if they hear this, they need to listen to the other one because there is the whole story with that with your
the Game Gear,
like that. That I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to get me in any trouble with people quoting that back to me and being trying to cancel me with oh man, he was such a dick when he was a kid.
Who wasn't?
Yeah.
Who wasn't when they
Who
didn't
wasn't a
get those? They
bratty little
weren't.
brat
Yeah,
when they were a kid?
had their little tantrums or whatever. Yeah.
And then Paul talked about some stuff that was, but um I don't know. I didn't never want a BB gun or anything.
Yeah.
I didn't want, like, basically anything I wanted was whatever the hip thing was at that time. So
Mhm.
if it were Sega Game Gear, or if it were like a Nintendo game or something, I would always ask for that for Christmas or whatever. The crazy thing about now is you can't have the Red Ryder BB gun because you can just go out and buy it, yourself, right? So there's nothing you want, as an adult. There's nothing you want all year for Christmas. So adults are harder to buy for because we can just buy whatever we want. As kids, you have to wait till your parents get you whatever whatever you want. So what about you, Alfred? What was your Red Ryder?
Mine was a USS Flag G.I. Joe aircraft carrier.
Nice. And did you get it?
Yep.
Did you like beg all year to be,
I
for
don't
that?
know. I was like really excited about it. And I'm sure I brought it up more than once. But one, it's so funny because we usually open up our presents Christmas Eve, and then Saturday morning we would just eat and have a good time. But this year, my dad, he bought it at Children's Palace, and he had it in a shed out back. And then Christmas morning, he brought it out, and I almost passed out when I saw it.
Oh, I think that my parents did that with the Game Gear. They did not put it under the tree. They put it in the closet or somewhere, and then eventually gave it to me when I thought that it wasn't there. That I wasn't gonna get it. I did end up getting it, like the Red Ryder BB gun. But
It's funny. We talk about this night, all these things about stuff we open for Christmas, and then in the other podcast we talked about like the Christmas morning and how Christmas Day and stuff like that was. But thinking of this movie with Christmas Vacation, they don't actually make it to Christmas in the movie.
Yeah, we never see Christmas.
The movie ends on Christmas Eve.
Ah,
So
interesting.
Yeah. So don't you remember? He's like, they bring him over, and it's the night before, and he says he's doing the reading of the Christmas story and all that stuff. The movie ends on Christmas Eve,
Oh,
so it doesn't even go into Christmas Day on in this movie.
yeah. That's an
Yeah, so
interesting idea. Like, you would think like a movie called Christmas Vacation, even though like it's the vacation of Christmas, during whatever time right before Christmas, you'd think like maybe they would show that, but they didn't.
it was the week leading right up to Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Eve was the end of it.
Good point.
Yeah. It's interesting to think of. I kind of thought about that after. I was like, wait, I'm not gonna see if freaking them open up the gifts and stuff, because like what I really liked, the heart that this movie did have, was that scene with him and the little girl and Mary Sue or whatever, and she talking to him about the fact that they're not gonna have any money for Christmas, and how she thinks all this stuff, so it makes Clark feel bad and want to help out and want to do that stuff, even though he he wasn't rich himself, like my biggest problem, I think, with the movie, just like thinking about it, is the fact that he wanted a bonus for a swimming pool, right? Like he wanted to have a swimming pool put into his backyard, right? And everything for the family, but still, like that was what he was going to use on his bonus. Like, I'm sorry, but you could save up enough money later and get one. I mean, the bonus it sucks when they're expecting him to live, but if you're just there just for that, like I felt like that was a little bit like I felt like if it were for him to live off of and he wasn't going to actually be able to afford presents or something, it would have been a different take on it. But it was so you can have a swimming pool.
Well, if you think back to the first vacation and just his characters, and they even make a comment, he's laying in bed with Ellen about he's like, when have I ever overdone anything? So he always thinks grand. He always does grand. It's grand visions with the family, because it's like the first one, he charts out the whole game on the computer, and then then the kids start chasing his characters and stuff like that in the video game. But he's always looking at making this big, grand gestures of going cross country trip to Wally World, or having this big emotional Christmas vacation that's like with the biggest lights that they have to reset power structures for, and so the bonus to me, combine that with working at a same place for 15 years, and if you get this a bonus every year, that was planned what he was going to do. So it was kind of a rash decision on his part, that the common sense didn't kick in, like, oh, what happens if this doesn't happen?
Well, I don't. Yeah, and once again, maybe it was like he didn't think like he didn't think his boss would actually do that. You know.
Yeah, and I was sitting there thinking, as a homeowner, I'm like, he's sitting there stapling into his roof. I was like, all those lights. I'm like, that's not good. I was like, putting all those staples in your roof. It's like,
no, it's like, I don't know. How did that even work?
Yeah, so it's like, and then all the staples into the sides, the walls and stuff, like, because he had 25,000 lights or something like that. I'm like, I put little hooks up in the vent. That's about it for me on anything that's going to be attached to the house. And they're plastic things that pop right off, so it doesn't cause any damage. But yeah, so it's just, he doesn't necessarily think, and he's completely oblivious to what he's doing to his neighbors. I mean, shooting the ice through the window and stuff like that. The tree goes through the window. I mean, common sense lacked on his, and he was kind of an idiot, but he's the lovable idiot that we all like. So.
Yeah, no, he's the lovable idiot. That's absolutely how he's how he is. So I don't know. I just yeah, you're right. Now that you're saying like his common sense didn't kick in and everything, that sort of makes sense. But like for a long time I was like thinking he's getting mad because he can't do a swimming pool. I know he already put down a deposit for it, so that was what the problem was, that he already put money for it, and now if he didn't get the bonus, he's gonna be screwed, or whatever. But that's kind of his fault. Like, he should have thought through, like, things happened. He might not have gotten that bonus, Yeah,
it's like each year, I know for me with work, it's like we're at a different time of the year for bonus, but it's like they always say it's never guaranteed, but as a worker and stuff like that, when you're with the company for so long, there's a thing that it's kind of expected. And I think he made the comment in the movie, thinking back to this movie, it's like he said, if you're not going to give a bonus, that's fine, but don't lead us on, or don't make sure you tell us and stuff like that, so he can be aware of it. But like we said earlier, it's like it's a comedy, so sometimes in comedies, especially some of the slapstick stuff that goes on, you could sort of dismiss some points that could be perceived as flaws or errors or issues and stuff like that, because there's so much goodwill build up around it anyway, that it can even withstand a fried cat.
Oh man, sorry, Alfred. I know, going back to the Gremlins, I know you hated when the Gremlins got hurt, so the fried cat, yeah, that must have been pissed you off in some way.
But the dog was okay in Gremlins, even though he did get hung up by the Christmas lights.
Yeah, but now that I'm like thinking about it, that is pretty sad that he got hung up by Christmas lights and stuff.
I was like, hearing him just whimpering. I'm like, oh. But
I know.
Yeah,
that's sad, but this didn't have the dog in this movie. Nothing happened to him. He attacked a squirrel. He didn't even go after the cat, which was weird. I mean, I thought the cat was gonna, but that poor cat, man, he was inside a box for a while, like in a package, and then he gets let out and he fucking fries. Like, damn, man, John Hughes must not like cats,
I would say one thing that was kind of funny was when cousin Eddie said, "Well, if he had 9 lives, he used them all up." It was kind of.
I like it. And then Clark's like, "Where's Eddie? He eats these damn things." And Catherine's like, "Not since he's known that they're high in cholesterol."
Squirrel is high in cholesterol now. Oh Lord.
Yeah. So.
I'm like, I don't ever want to eat squirrel now. unless I was trapped on an island and that was the only thing I could eat at that time. And I'd probably just go vegetarian at that rate because I don't like to freaking kill anything, you know? And, you know, so anyway, well,
I think that wraps it up.
That wraps it up. Yeah, I was gonna say. I just want to let everybody know that we will be back next year, next March. So I'm really excited for that. We're gonna I'm not sure. Have we decided what we want to do for if we want a theme or no theme next?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. We wrestled with a few ideas, but I think it's basically as of now it's still it's going to be open ideas. But
I think you know what? I think no theme this next year, and then next year after that, next season after that can be like 90s or 70s or something. You know?
Yeah,
sure.
Like, but if anybody who's listening has a request or something like that, that we could definitely consider if it fits into the idea of what this podcast is all about. We're glad to hear recommendations.
Yeah, if you have a recommendation of a movie or a director that you want us to talk about or something, but I think it's going to be all movies again next year and whatever one we want to do. So I'm really excited. Thank you guys for another successful season of Hollywood Boulevard Podcast. And, I can't wait to do next season because this season we had no idea what we were gonna do, and I think now we've got more of a hand on what we want to do, for the show and everything. So I think we'll have a really fun time. So but thank you guys, and guess see you all next year.
See you in the spring.
Right.
Next year.
Yeah.
Bye everyone.
Bye everybody.
You're listening to the Hollywood Boulevard Podcast.